Lil B The BasedGod. Now, before we get into this video, judging by the title, and before the task force comes after me, just let me have you know, okay? Task force, I am part of the B mob, all right? I am based. You've seen me hit the cooking dance. You've seen I have Lil B reactions on my channel. I am one of Lil B's, I wouldn't say biggest fans of all time, but Lil B is one of my favorite artists in the last decade, okay? Absolutely revolutionary, trailblazing. He pretty much set the tone for all the music that would come out between like 2014 and 2018. And he was doing that back in 2010, 2012. You know, Lil B, at one point, he had the whole world in his palm. And this video is just kind of exploring what I think could have been. Now, I don't know if these things were a conscious decision that he just never really wanted to fully step into the mainstream limelight, but I do feel like he had an appetite for fame. And looking back at his insane career, there just seems to be these subtle missteps that just always kind of kept him from going to that next level, which I'm sure, okay, I'm sure Lil B is fine. I'm pretty sure he's well off, okay? But from what it looks, I don't know this or not, this might be misinformation, but it looks like his YouTube channel has been demonetized. Now, I don't know if this is because, you know, we all know the sort of content that Lil B's created, which is what makes him such an enigma in the first place, because he would preach all this positivity in his interviews, and then he would just make the foulest, most off-the-wall records possible, which is kind of, it just added to his appeal. You know, that's one of the things I remember when I first discovered him. The first record I ever heard was Degeneres. Now, I thought this was so bad. I thought, okay, the world is ending. What is this BS? I remember I drove to a friend's house. I was like, bro, you have to watch this. And we sat there and we watched Degeneres, and we just sat there and hate watched it like 2 or 3 times and just couldn't believe what we were witnessing. And then I kept seeing, you know, Lil B pop up in the Reddit forums, like hip hop heads and stuff like that. And people would be like, oh, he preaches such a positive message. And I was just like one of these people. I was just like, how is he preaching positivity? All he's talking about is just the foulest things possible. Like, what is positive about this? And I remember one comment which made me based. It said, well, what's not positive about getting your... you got a point, okay? You got a point. And so I don't know if YouTube retroactively went in and, you know, demonetized his channel because there were so many just ridiculous off-the-wall videos. But yeah, I'm sure BasedGod's all right, but in my opinion, I think Lil B could have been one of the biggest artists in the world. Now, that's not to say he is this underground legend, okay? But I don't feel like he ever became more than this meme. And I feel like along the way, he had plenty of chances to do so. You know, Lil B was in one of the biggest freshman classes of all time, 2011. You know, such acts as Kendrick Lamar, Mac Miller, Yellow Wolf, YG. So some of these artists who've just seen massive mainstream success, and Lil B was right there with them. And in my opinion, he had one of the best ciphers too, because, and you can see it on Yellow Wolf, if you go back and watch that clip of the cypher with Yellow Wolf, Kendrick, I think it was Fred the Godson, and the BasedGod. You can tell Yellow Wolf had never heard Lil B seriously rap, and I think that was such the appeal of Lil B to the people. It felt like being in on this weird joke. It felt like being in on this secret, that this guy could actually rap, but he would rather troll the game, because at the time, I mean, looking back now, it might seem weird for Gen Z, but at the time, there was no like a hint of being a homosexual or anything. Like if you got exposed that you actually weren't from a rough neighborhood, or that you weren't committing the crimes that you're talking about in your records, that was highly, highly frowned upon. That those things wouldn't fly. And then Lil B was almost like this, you know, he had this godly aura to him. It was almost like he sacrificed himself for the rapper's sins who just wanted to have fun. And that's where Lil B almost came along and just liberated people, and it became a like fun, especially in the internet era where, you know, the MySpace, YouTube, and all these things were, you know, we're moving away from the traditional mediums like MTV and stuff like that, to where you had direct access to these artists on the computer, and they could be as vulgar and funny as they wanted. You know, we got other acts like, you know, like the Riff Raff and all these people like the Dirt Nasties at the time. Lil B was just the forefather that a lot of people credit Soulja Boy, but I feel like Soulja Boy always was kind of... Soulja Boy had that Drake thing to him where he could always kind of predict where the game was going to go and he would attach himself to people. BasedGod just came in with this whole thing. He didn't care about anything or anybody. He just came in and did whatever the heck he wanted, and he blazed trails, and it worked. Now, he had big moments in his career, like sharing a stage with Diddy, which, you know, at the moment, that might not be the greatest thing. But at the time, I mean, Diddy's one of the biggest moguls in hip-hop history, okay? So for a guy who's rapping about eating butt on YouTube to be on stage with Puff Daddy at the time, that was a huge deal. Or there was TMZ coverage about Lil B. Rappers like, you know, he was just a discussion of hip-hop. And it was crazy because people were dissing him, like Joe Budden dissed him at one point, and then Lil B, like hours later, he comes on Twitter and he releases one of the best diss songs ever, T-Shirt and Buttons. And so it just he became this constant enigma where when you first hear of him, you would Google him and you would find Wonton Soup, you would find Ellen DeGeneres, you would find just these ridiculous records, and then you see, like, why does this guy have such a fan base? Then he gets dissed, then he comes back and just drops these crazy records. Now, he cracked the code early on the internet about how stupidity and negativity would spread quicker than, you know, coming to try out and who could rap the hardest, who could be the most on beat, who could rap the best at rapping. You know what I mean? And Lil B just kind of broke all those walls down. Now, unfortunately, it did lead to a massive wave of just quality drop in music, because at one point it just became almost not cool to even try. But I feel like Lil B, he created this appetite in his satirical music that he was releasing. He left these little traces. He left these little traces of actual skill and actual genius that I feel like we were just chomping at the bits for. And the closest thing we got to a quality, well-produced Lil B record was his 2011 record called I'm Gay, which he still claims it wasn't an album. He still considers that a mixtape. But that was the first time that, personally, and I think since, that you heard Lil B rap over actual good beats, and his vocals were mixed, and it feels like he actually took the time to record the vocals relatively. It still sounded kind of phoned into me, but that's the closest thing we ever got to hearing him trying, you know? He was able to create all this buzz around just being this ridiculous character. And then people knew, like, once people started catching on, okay, this is an act, because he was trolling before trolling was even a thing. And he would get invites to go on shows like The Breakfast Club, which never happened. He managed to, you know, have these crazy NBA beefs, and he would go on ESPN and just kind of, he was always able to stay relevant in pop culture, but always as like this underground meme. And he always had chances. I mean, even Joe Rogan was discussing him.
That dude, Lil B The BasedGod, is that his name?
So I mean, the BasedGod sees and hears and is all. The BasedGod is everywhere. But he never took these chances, in my opinion, to rise up to that next level, which the thing that always prevented that, in my opinion, is he never gave us the album. Now, is Lil B a living legend, and has he left an impression on the whole entire world forever, especially in music and positivity, by coining terms like based, which unfortunately have been hijacked by crazy political ideologies and whatnot? Yes, he's definitely done those things. But could he have been up there with the right studio engineers who, you know, polished his music the same way they do with other artists like Future and Young Thug and these other artists who were bubbling at the time? I think Lil B could have been up there, because if you listen to his songs, his introspective songs like, you know, The Age of Information and things like this, and he had a lot to say. He has a lot of introspective, deep things to say. It just was never delivered in a way where the just common, just casual, you know, hip-hop head or just music consumer in general could really dive into the world of Lil B now. And, you know, most people with a sense of humor who were hip-hop fans, they're always going to ride with the BasedGod, and I'm one of those people. And of course, we all get older. Lil B's gotten older. He's not going to be, you know, wearing women's clothes with dirty Vans with the perfect hairline forever. But, you know, those moments will be something always dear to my heart. That was a great time, in my opinion, one of the greatest runs in hip-hop. I just always wonder what would have happened if the BasedGod would have taken that next step. So Let me know what you think in the comments. Thank you so much for watching this video. Thank you, BasedGod. And whoop, whoop, swag. See you for the next one.